I'm Melody Johnson, author of the Nightblood series, and we are in countdown mode for my new sci-fi romance novel, Beyond the Next Star. It releases on June 23rd, and that is 2 weeks away. So excited. And today, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek into Beyond the Next Star. When the Lorianic abducted Delaney, after she'd finally accepted that she wasn't dreaming, in a coma, having a mental breakdown, or in hell, she'd given them a fake name, Jane Smith. Not an exceptionally creative or unique synonym by any stretch of the imagination, but having come to grips with the fact that she'd been literally abducted by aliens, her imagination was stretched dangerously thin. Intergalactic kidnapping wasn't a chronic illness, but for a time, a longer time than she was comfortable admitting to now, wasting away had seemed a preferable fate. She didn't accomplish much by hiding her identity. She didn't have any blood relatives to protect, a criminal record to hide, or a trust fund to safeguard. No, Delaney Rose McCormick had about as much value associated with her name as did the fictional Jane Smith, and left nearly as small a void on Earth. But all Delaney had in those early days directly following her abduction was her name, and the hope that everything, the abduction, the tests, the training, was just a big mistake. Which, as it turned out, it was. Her abduction had been the biggest technological mistake in Lorianic history, but that didn't change her circumstances. Days turned to weeks, turned to months, turned to the abandonment of tracking time. Hope died. She had nothing to her name, but her name at least was her own, and she would keep it for herself. By the time her domestication specialist, Keel Kaur Widnar, discovered Delaney's capacity to learn and taught her Lori, his native language, the issue of her name had become moot. He'd already renamed her Reshna, a spiral-shaped handheld tool used to drill into ice. He'd shown her a hologram of it, pointed to the spiral and then to the wild frizz of her unconditioned curls. They had a similar looking tool on Earth, but they used it to open wine bottles. He'd named her Corkscrew for her crazy hair. She'd been called worse names in high school. She couldn't say she'd lived in worse places, though. Most of her foster families, with the exception of the Todd household, had been decent people who'd given her clothes, a bed under a roof, and regular meals. Besides clothes, those basic necessities were still being met, so a little gratitude was probably in order. But only just a little, because she also had a cage and a collar. And if she just translated the words and growls of the pet store manager correctly, she had a new owner. Like most lore, her owner had thick curved ram horns jutting from his head, and like all Lorianic, regardless of gender, he was covered head to toe in brown fur. Sasquatch did exist after all, he just wasn't native to Earth. He was roughly the same size and shape as a human bodybuilder, and in addition to the horns, his nose and mouth protruded slightly into a blunt muzzle. 2 rows of sharp predator teeth filled his overly large mouth, and pointy bare claws tipped each finger and likely each toe on his boot-shod feet. Unlike most, this male wore his hair long. His locks were tied back from his face in a messy bun with a forest green elastic headband. His beard was also long and came to a point at the end, hanging a few inches below his chin. But his eyes were his most striking feature, assuming that one had already become accustomed to the ram horns, claws, abundance of muscle, and close-cropped body fur. His left eye was the same doe brown common to all Lorianic, a smidge rounder and larger than human eyes, like calf eyes with those thick lashes and soul-deep stare. But his other eye was ice blue. A thick scar bisected his right brow, eyelid, and upper cheek, slicing directly over that unique, penetrating gaze. His bearing was regal and confident, the sharp cut of his jawline proud, but his eyes betrayed him. He was sad, horribly sad, and he glowered at Delaney through the wire door of her cage like he was the Greek king Sisyphus and she his boulder, resigning to himself to an eternity of labor over an impossible, futile undertaking. Or maybe Delaney was just projecting, because she couldn't imagine anything more impossible and futile than her current existence. "I am not a pet," she wanted to yell, but after witnessing Keel's cold-blooded murder, she knew to keep her mouth firmly shut. If anyone suspected her more intelligent than a golden retriever, her death would be next.